I still remember the first time I smelled a two-stroke engine coughing itself awake. It was 1978, my old man's Vinroot on the back of a dented aluminum boat, and the lake was so still you could hear the spark plugs arguing. That smell never leaves you. It's the scent of skinned knuckles, of a Saturday that belongs to you and nobody else. 45 years later, I figured I'd earned another lungful. My son Jack deserved it too. We live in Willow Ridge, a neighborhood so tidy it looks like the developer hired a librarian to lay out the streets. Every mailbox is the same black steel, every lawn is the same shade of regulation green, and every driveway hosts the same two vehicles, a silver SUV and a sensible sedan. That's the contract you sign when you move in. I signed it for the schools. I signed it for the quiet. I signed it because my wife Ellen said, "Tom, we're not 25 anymore. We can't fix carburetors on the curb in front of the whole block." She was right. Mostly. The trouble started with a $50 go-kart I found on an app that rhymes with Space Rook. The ad promised, runs great, needs love. Translation, it ran like a man jogging with a broken ankle and needed a heart transplant. Jack and I spent 3 weekends in the garage rebuilding the carb, welding a wheel spindle, and learning that YouTube mechanics never show you the part where the pull cord snaps back and takes a layer of skin with it. When the little Briggs finally caught and settled into its angry putt-putt-putt, Jack's grin could have powered the grid. He strapped on his helmet. I gave him the rules, sidewalk only, walking pace, kill switch if you see a soul, and off he went. 90 seconds of pure, low-speed freedom. That's when Karen arrived. Karen is the HOA president, treasurer, parliamentarian, and probably the ghostwriter of the covenants. She moves like a shark that's memorized the patrol schedule. In one hand, she carries a 3-ring binder thick enough to stop a bullet. In the other, a retractable tape measure. She doesn't walk so much as audit the pavement. I saw her before I heard her squeaky orthopedic shoes. Jack saw her and hit the kill switch like a good soldier. The engine died with a sigh. "Thomas," she began. "Nobody calls me Thomas except my mother and the IRS. Section 4, paragraph B. No unlicensed motorized recreational vehicles on community pathways, sidewalks, or green spaces." She flipped pages with the confidence of a televangelist quoting scripture. "This is a clear violation. 24 hours to remove it from public view. $500 per day thereafter." Jack's lower lip started its telltale quiver. He'd helped me weld that spindle. He knew the difference between a flat washer and a lock washer. And now he looked like I'd just told him the tooth fairy had been downsized. Something inside me snapped. Not the go-kart. Not yet. But a small, important part labeled common sense. Ellen came out with her coffee, took one look at the pink citation, and said the 4 words every husband dreads. "Tom, don't do it." "Do what?" "The thing. The escalation thing." She reminded me of the 6-month war I'd waged over an oak tree that technically encroached 18 inches onto our lot and allegedly threw our satellite dish off by 0.4 of a degree. She reminded me of the 40-page brief I'd filed when the county tried to ticket me for parking facing the wrong direction. "It's a toy, Tom. Take him to the park." "It's not the toy," I said. "It's the principle." She brought a binder to a go-kart fight. That night the kitchen table became my war room. Ellen retreated to a documentary about competitive dachshund agility. I had the covenants, a yellow highlighter, and a 6-pack of something local that tasted like pine needles and regret. 300 pages of suburban scripture. I learned that our wind chimes couldn't exceed 25 decibels, quieter than a library cough. I learned that basketball hoops were forbidden to have red nets, because red is visually aggressive. I learned that Karen hadn't just read the rules. She'd annotated them in 3 colors of ink. Then I found gold in Section 9, property maintenance and seasonal equipment. The language was gloriously vague. Homeowners were encouraged to keep properties in seasonal readiness. Approved equipment for landscaping or seasonal upkeep was permitted. No decibel cap. No horsepower limit. No definition of seasonal. I looked out the window at our driveway, 40 feet of black asphalt that saw maybe 1 inch of slush every other February. I looked at the calendar. Winter was coming. Somewhere. Ellen found me at 2 in the morning staring at a government surplus listing. 1998 Olympia ice resurfacer, 6 tons, propane, runs, blade needs sharpening, buyer handles transport. $4,500. I clicked buy it now before my credit card could file a restraining order. "You bought a Zamboni," Ellen said the next morning. It wasn't a question. "Technically an Olympia," I corrected. "Zamboni is a brand. You bought a 6-ton ice machine in Virginia." "Seasonal precipitation management," I said. "Safety first." The delivery was scheduled for Saturday at 10, the exact hour of Willow Ridge's semi-annual community yard sale. I paid the driver $800 cash to bring a lowboy flatbed into our cul-de-sac. The rig sounded like a dying dinosaur. Every card table froze mid-haggle. The driver, neck tattoo reading pork in Gothic letters, winched the beast down the ramp while the entire neighborhood watched in religious silence. It barely fit. The front bumper kissed the garage door. The rear conditioner overhung the sidewalk by 3 feet. It smelled of mildew, propane, and broken dreams. Jack's eyes went saucer-wide. "Is that ours?" "Your new go-kart, son." Karen arrived at a dead run, binder clutched like a shield. Her face cycled through every shade of beige fury. "Thomas, it's July." "Exactly," I said, patting the propane tank. "Gotta be ready for winter. Section 9 encourages proactive maintenance." I handed her a highlighted copy. She read it, mouth opening and closing like a goldfish in sensible shoes. For the first time in recorded history, Karen was speechless. She turned and power walked back to her command center. Round 1, Dad. She retaliated with the police. Officer Rodriguez showed up, took one look at the 6-ton blue monstrosity, and asked if it was street legal. Absolutely not, I said. Off-road equipment. Stays on private property. Like a riding mower, only specialized. He tried not to smile. Just move it off the sidewalk, sir. Mrs. Henderson needs to get by with her scooter. I promised I would. Karen's curtains twitched in defeat. Phase 2. Pimp my resurfacer. I called Gus at Iron Horse Customs. He arrived in a slammed '57 Chevy, took one lap around the machine, and declared it the dumbest, most beautiful thing I've ever been paid to ruin. Candy apple red paint, airbrushed flames licking up the sides, neon underglow, and a triple trumpet train horn that could wake the founding fathers. Jack picked the name, the Covenant Crusher. Gus painted it in Gothic script across the front. The crew worked in my driveway for a week, Sanders screaming, scorpions blaring. Karen tried to cite me for an unapproved temporary structure. I pointed to the rule allowing vehicle covers during repair. She tried to cite me for noise. I pointed to the 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. construction window. She left both times smelling defeat and compressor oil. 2 weeks later, Saturday, 10 o'clock sharp, we unveiled the masterpiece. Gus yanked the tarp. The cul-de-sac gasped. The Covenant Crusher gleamed like a ruby fire engine designed by Satan. Jack climbed up beside me. I hit the key. The propane 6-cylinder roared like Judgment Day. AC/DC's, thunderstruck, poured from the new speakers. I eased it into gear. 9 miles an hour never felt so illegal. We did one slow, glorious lap around the public turnaround. The blade dropped, screeching across county asphalt. The train horn announced our presence like Gabriel's trumpet. Kids cheered. Dad saluted with soapy sponges. Karen stood in her front yard in a pink bathrobe, phone in one hand, sanity in the other. She was dialing 911 before we completed the circle. Officer Rodriguez returned with his sergeant. The sergeant took one look, rubbed his temples, and said, "Son, you just can't." Can't what exactly? I asked from my perch 9 feet in the air. Drive a flaming Zamboni down a public street while grinding the pavement and playing hair metal. Is there a statute? He sighed the sigh of a man calculating overtime. Technically no, but you're damaging county property and creating a nuisance. Karen shrieked. He's doing it to torment me. The sergeant raised a hand. Ma'am, go inside. He looked at me. Park it. Now. Or I swear I'll figure out how to impound 6 tons of spite. Standoff. The neighborhood held its breath. I saw my opening. Sergeant, I'm reasonable. I'll mothball the crusher. It stays in my driveway as seasonal decor. Never moves again. In exchange, Karen rescinds the go-kart fine and proposes the Jack Amendment. Toys under 10 horsepower, operated by helmeted minors, allowed on sidewalks Saturdays 10 to 2. Karen's eyes narrowed to slits. That's anarchy. The sergeant shrugged. Take the deal. She looked at the crusher, at the dozen neighbors grinning behind their phones, at the fresh circular scar on the asphalt. She saw her future, every Saturday, that blade, that horn, that roar. She folded. Fine. The emergency HOA meeting was a formality. The Jack Amendment passed 42 to 1. Karen cast the lone no. Jack rides every Saturday at 10:01, helmet gleaming, waving at Karen's twitching curtains. The Covenant Crusher sits under its red tarp like a sleeping dragon. Once a month, when Karen emails about trash can placement or holiday lights that exceed 8 feet, I plug in the shore power, flip the underglow, and give the horn a 3-second blast. Just a friendly reminder. Peace through superior absurdity. Now I want to hear from you. Was I right to push back, or did I cross the line from principle into pettiness? When someone wields a binder like a club, is ridiculous escalation the only language they understand? Drop your verdict in the comments. Stand your ground. No fence sitting. And if you've ever fought City Hall, an HOA, or a neighbor with a tape measure, tell us your war story. Like, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's keep the conversation louder than a train horn at 10 in the morning.